Expedition number 4 and its rewards will be gone very soon. You have about 6 more days to complete these and get yourself the really unique sandworm pet and the other cool customization features and titles for your character. And there's many other benefits on top that we will discuss in this video, so let's jump right into it. Now, going over a quick recap, the reason why you're gonna want to do this is because you get a number of goodies, including the sandworm pet right here, which is given to you after finishing the entirety of expedition number 4 in the form of an egg, which means that just like in the case of the previous expedition, you can also go ahead and genetically modify this at an egg sequencer. So you can increase its size just like usual, but unlike the previous egg, you can also change the colors and its genetic features. This includes everything from the body parts, the sections, the way its face looks like, and the type of mandible, but also from the color scheme. So you will definitely want to do some save files before you test all of these out. A number of other customization options will also be in there, including the feasting cask for the Viking class. It kind of looks like a worm head that you can apply to your character, which looks quite unique and also will be gone quite soon, as well as the ghastly trails that you can apply to your jetpacks. Yeah, you also have the titles in there, and of course the item cards and the banners for finishing the entire expedition. Of course, these aren't the only things you're gonna experience from this expedition. It's of course also going to feature the new cursed wind biome, which kind of spawns a ton of worm encounters all over the place. And you also get to quickly jumpstart a new save file because this expedition just throws a lot of money at you in the early stages of the game, and it also makes travel that much easier since you're gonna get all of the 16 portal glyphs very easy because of a very early on challenge. And your first step is rather easy in this expedition. You will have to reach your ship on the starting planet, leave that planet eventually, and then head over to the first rendezvous point, which is done by warping outside of your starting system. Once you've done that, you should see the challenge called Into the Black popping up that will give you access to the personal refiner plans. And this is my first tip on the list. It's to go ahead and immediately build this, as this will prove very useful to refine things straight from your inventory, and even when you're out in space or when you're inside of your ship. Coming up to number 2, as I've said, expedition number 4 gives you a ton of ways to earn money very fast and very early. How early, you might ask? Well, pretty much as early as the spawning planet, the first one you start on, and of course this will give you access to 2 sources of income very easily. One of them is through storm crystals. Most of these planets that you encounter have extreme storms on them, and you're going to be able to collect these storm crystals very fast because your jetpack also recharges a lot faster during these storms. At the same time, you should also pay attention to the Titan worm encounters, these new spawns where you have to defeat something called hungering tendrils. These will drop a new item called fresh ropes, and between these and the storm crystals, you can already leave the starting planet with millions worth of resources to sell at the nearby trading post. Also, another quick tip right here: in the early stages of the game, you also have to build a hyperdrive for your ship to leave your starting system, but as we've already established, you're already a millionaire by this point, so why not head over to one of these captains on the nearby space station and just trade in your ship for a better one that already has a hyperdrive pre-installed. This is especially true for some of the players who didn't get to play through expedition number 1 and get the golden vector that can be redeemed on new characters as well, so this would be the next best thing. Moving on to the number 3 on the list, it's gonna be about rendezvous points, and there's gonna be several of these when you're doing expedition number 4, and they are gonna be important for a few reasons. The most important is because they consist of abandoned buildings, which means they give you access to alien eggs, and you'll need these for a couple of challenges. The first one is going to be for their scent remains, where you have to steal 16 whispering eggs from each of these buildings that you encounter in your journeys. Now, of course, you can do these one by one, and eventually you should get all the 16 eggs, but you can also pay attention to the second system with the second rendezvous point, because on one of the planets you will be able to encounter the scrambled eggs farm on the Lush planet right here. Of course, assuming that you have multiplayer enabled, which makes collecting those eggs that much easier. The second one is gonna be for the visceral synthesizer. You're going to have to craft this using 4 whispering eggs. So whatever you do, make sure you always keep those 4 whispering eggs by the time you reach this point in the expedition. Another reason why these rendezvous points are important is because they also help out with a different challenge that will give you access very early on to all of the 16 portal glyphs in the game. So very early on in phase 2, you're going to have the challenge called the Flashy Core to encounter the second Titan Burrow, which is going to be very close to the second rendezvous point. All you have to do is to pull up your visor, switch to the target sweep mode that is going to be visible right there on the bottom part of your screen, and then you're going to be able to mark down the location of your next tendril encounter right in front of you. And when you do this, you're going to be able to finish it, and this is going to give you access to all of the 16 portal glyphs without ever having to complete even a portion of the main story campaign. At the same time, if you just visit these Titan Burrows every time you find a new rendezvous point, you will eventually also complete a challenge called Bad Vibrations, where you have to kill all of these 36 tendril encounters to count for that achievement, so there's some extra benefits on top in there as well. Moving over to tip number 4, start as early as even the first planet to grab Cursed Dust, a new element that has been added strictly for this expedition that will prove useful for some of the later stages of the expedition and some of its challenges. So every new sandworm planet is also going to have a high chance to feature Cursed Dust, which you can also see being indicated on the planet when you scan it. So what you have to do is to simply pull up your visor, and you should see these deposits from pretty far away, but pay close attention to the ones that mention Cursed Dust, because you will have to collect about 512 of these for the first achievement, which is going to be the Inedible Stain. It's quite a bunch of it, so to make sure you maximize your yield from these rather small deposits that you're going to find around the planet, make sure you adjust your terrain manipulator on the smallest beam to take the most out of it. If you put it to middle, it's going to pretty much half that yield, and if you put it on the max, it's going to give you only about a quarter of the max possible yield that you can get out of it. This will also count towards another achievement called Into the Red. In this one, you essentially have to bring some of that Cursed Dust to the Atlas, and you have to find the Atlas station for that. Luckily, you only need about 16 of these, so if you sold a bunch of it and still have some left, just go ahead, grab it, and you should be good for that. And this is going to give you access to the visual synthesizer plans, and as I've said, this is going to be very important because this is what you will use to decrypt all of those documents that you got related to the worm infestation that you need to bring at one of these archives that you will find later on in expedition number 4. Now, if you reach this point, there should be only one big step left in front of you to kind of finish everything up and make things a lot easier, which is to decrypt all of the files that you got at a nearby archive. But to do that, you actually need an archive override implant, and the only way to get it is to retrieve it from an actual, well, derelict freighter, and that's going to be done through the achievement called They Pushed Too Far. And it's actually quite easy because from some of the previous challenges, you should already get one of these devices right here that will let you find one of these encounters for absolutely free. It's called an emergency broadcast receiver, and it should bring you, if you activate it, to it right away. So inside of it, you're gonna have to reach pretty deep into the derelict freighter, about towards the last part of it, in order to get this file right here that is gonna give you access to the archive override implant from one of these terminals. And once you're done with that, you're gonna be able to finish this achievement and then focus on the next one that should come super easy, which is going to be all the way in phase 4, called Forbidden Wards. Of course, you have to reach that archive in the first place, and you can definitely go ahead and make use of some of the cartographer maps on the space station, but the easiest to do it right now is to pay close attention to some of the bases that other people left, or some of the teleport points, because around rendezvous point number 4 and 5, there's quite a number of these archives that have been marked by other players, meaning that it's super easy to just teleport to one using a terminal, or simply look for it on one of these planets. And once you're there, you're going to be able to use the override to read the text, and you're pretty much done with the next achievement as well, which is the Forbidden Wards. And yeah, that is pretty much it with expedition number 4. The only other, well, challenge that should be worth mentioning is Embrace the Flames. It doesn't make it clear how you can achieve this, and it was a little bit difficult for me at first. You have to subject yourself to the Ritual of Fire, which essentially means you have to stay up in some of these flames that will naturally spawn on some of the planets, especially the rendezvous planets that you will encounter anyway, and just let it deal damage to you until you see the pop-up of the challenge appearing on your screen, which should be right after it completely depletes your shields and starts dealing damage to your actual HP, which would be those dots over there beneath the HP bar, and that is when you should see it pop up. That is it for now. Totally let me know down below if you finished the expedition number 4, and I'll see you guys in the next video.